here for the next cycle. With that being said, we'll turn it over to Nitin Bhai and Pallaviji for their Karm Yoga continuous session. So I will turn it over to you guys. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Sunilji. Thank you, Madanji. Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, and good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. And over to you, Nitinji.
Pallaviji. Thank you, Madanji and Sunil Bhai, for the wonderful session, like always. Good morning, good evening to all of you. Welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. We are on Shloka 2.47, talking about Karm Yoga. And today we will get into the second tenet or the principle of Karm Yoga. We'll go really deep into that concept because we have heard it multiple times, we hear it, but it just doesn't click, What does it mean, offering fruits of your work to God? Why does God need fruit from our work, right? Would it make God any more or any less if he gets the fruits of our results? So this is a very confusing concept, but we'll try to go deeper into this concept and hopefully should be able to get the import of this particular principle, important principle within Karm Yoga. And I'm looking forward to another engaging and fascinating discussion around it as well. So let me get started by our opening prayers and we will get started. Able to see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, we'll do our opening prayers then. Gurul Brahma, Gurul Vishnu, Guru Devo Ishwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening once again. Let's get started with our recitation and then we will get into the topic of our discussion today. Karmanyavadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalheturabhu ma te sangosva karmani. All right, Pallaviji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe, Surendraji, please go ahead.
Radhe Surendraji.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलेषु कर्मा ते संगयोत्सकर्मणि.
Yeah, ma karma phal hetur bhu is together. Ma te sangostva karmani is together. Thank you very much.
Brahma te sango swatah karmani.
Thank you, Surendraji.
Thank you.
Let's take some more hands.
Yes, Radhe Radhe, Shyamji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalheturbhu ma te sangostva karmani. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, very nice, Shyamji. Thank you. Right,
Manishji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalheturbhu ma te sangostva karmani. Radhe Radhe.
Very much, Nishi. Radhe Radhe.
Sunita ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भुर्मा ते संगोऽस्तव कर्मणि.
Wonderful, very nice, Neetaji. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Venkatji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Venkatji.
Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, Radhe Radhe. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbhu ma te sangostva karmani.
Wonderful, very nice, Venkatji.
Radhe Radhe, Dineshji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phalesu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbhu ma te sangosva karmani. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. All right, we can take few more hands.
Ritaji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Neetaji.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भुः मा ते संगोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Very nice, Neetaji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Riyaji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Riyaji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala eturbhur ma te sangosva karmani.
Wonderful, thank you. Let's take really quickly. I think we have 2 or 3 more hands. We can cover them and then get started.
Lakshmi ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur ma te sangostva karmani.
Wonderful, very nice, Lakshmi ji. All right, 2 more to go and we'll get
Yes,
started.
Ashutosh ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Ashutosh.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भुः मा ते संगोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Very nice, Ashutosh ji. Radhe Radhe. Okay, 2 more. Let's
Yes.
take 2 more.
Pramod ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Pramod ji.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भुः मा ते संगोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Wonderful. All right, last but not the least.
Golab ji, yeah, Golab ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Golab ji.
Are you able to? Yeah.
Everybody, कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भुः मा ते
Sangostva karmani. All right. Thank you, Golabji. Now let's get started. So Lord Krishna is saying in the shloka that you have a right to perform your duty, your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, nor be attached to inaction. So let's get started on this with a quick recap what we spoke about yesterday. So just to reiterate what we spoke, I think it probably didn't make sense to some of you, so I'm going to clarify it. Let's get started first. So there are 4 tenets or principles of Karm Yoga. The first one is what we discussed yesterday was do your duty but do not concern yourself with the results. The fruits of your actions are not for your enjoyment is what we are going to go really deeper into today. Third one is even while working, give up the pride of doership. And the fourth one is do not be attached to inaction. Quick recap, we spoke about the significance of imbibing the principles of Karma Yoga in our day-to-day life, because it actually increases. If you look at it, the reason I picked up 8 was, instead of 2.4, it's like if you spend 10% of your time, right, then if you switch to implementing it to 8 hours a day, which is the typical work hour of typical working hours for working professionals during their daytime, then it is actually giving you a 3x gain, direct 3x gain, 3 times more, right? From 10 years to 30 years, you get that. So now 2.47 is what we are discussing. It's an interesting coincidence, right? If you do it 24/7, you can only imagine how much gain you will get out of it, right? So I thought it was a kind of an interesting coincidence, 2.47 and 24/7. So if you can implement it 24/7, sleep part obviously we'll have to discount. We cannot do that because in dreams, some of our aspirations are still there, but if 2.47 can become 24/7, nothing like it. So anyways, now let's get into the second principle. This is an important principle and often something which confounds us. What does it actually mean when we say offering results to God? And what is the theory, philosophy behind it? We'll try to dissect it step by step, but let's get started with a philosophy around it. Now, if you look at this chart, if you've been attending these sessions, this is basically the hierarchy of how this whole thing comes about. Right? There is Purusha, Param Purush, which is Lord Krishna, as Bhagavatam explains. And then he glances at Prakriti and everything starts unfolding from there. Mahan Tattva comes, Mahamkar comes, Panch Tanmatras come, the 5 elements come, and then pretty much the entire thing starts from that, right? So it's like Purush glances to Prakriti, Mahan, Ahamkar, and all of this stuff. Now, being the source of everything, the constitutional or the default position is of Purusha to be the supreme enjoyer. Right? Sometimes you might be wondering, why should God have all the fun? Why not us? So if you look at it, the constitutional position, the Purusha is supposed to be the supreme enjoyer of Prakriti and everything unfolding out of it. Now, if we artificially, not artificially, or for other reason, here are we have inserted ourselves here to becoming the enjoyer of the Prakriti, right? Look at this guy, he's floating around trying to enjoy here. Now, performing actions is an integral part of human nature. Because we have come into this world, we have various duties because of the occupational hazard of being in different situations, the social position, occupation, etc. But then the point here is the supreme enjoyer. We have to understand how this creation has come about. They are eventually, everything is meant for the pleasure of God. But that doesn't mean we are bereft of pleasure. Okay, that doesn't mean we have to be without pleasure. But then we have forgotten how we are going to derive the pleasure here. We try to hold the pleasure for ourselves. Okay, it's a little difficult concept to understand to begin with, but we'll try to get to that. Now, if you look at it, actually the supreme enjoyer is God just by the constitutional position that he has in the grand scheme of things. Okay, even when we are enjoying, truly enjoying, not the what do you call that, lower level of enjoyment, the enjoyment that God gets, right? Like, let's say, for example, a devotee gets a bliss of God. The bliss that God gets because of the bliss that the devotee is experiencing is much higher, because he's resided within, right? He relishes that bliss as well, because he's the soul of our soul, super soul. So just by that position, by being in that situation, God is able to relish even the bliss that we get. Okay, so he's the supreme enjoyer. End of the day, he only enjoys everything. But then when we think of ourselves as the enjoyer, that is where the problem starts happening. We think of bhogifying for ourselves, forgetting the higher principle around it. And that is what God is saying. Just correct that part, okay? And everything else will fall in place. Now let's look at it through another example. When we talk about the constitutional position, what does it mean? This example probably would have rung few bells, but not entirely. So let's look at it through another analogy, which should hopefully give us more understanding around this concept. So this is an analogy, beautiful analogy. Again, going back to this. So this one is a shloka from Padma Puran, which basically states that, again, to reiterate the concept that we are discussing, that God is the master, we are the tiny part of God, and our inherent nature is to serve him through all actions. If you look at anything and everything in this universe, the part has to serve the whole. It's not the other way around. Okay, but here the whole is also willing to serve us. We'll get into that concept on some other day. The part has to serve the whole, and God is the master of all creation. So if you go back to the previous hierarchy that we saw that in the previous screen, right, this in this hierarchy as well, God is the master. He is the source of all the sources here, and we have started, or we are thinking ourselves to be the enjoyer because of our conditioned state. Now this situation, let's try to understand it a little more deeply. Now the God is the master of all creation, as we have seen in the previous hierarchy. Everything basically emanates from God. Kathopanishad in fact states that this creation comes about like a spider creates its web, right? It just comes from spider's body, and then when it has to annihilate, it all goes back into the spider's body. So basically the God is the source of everything. It comes from God, resides within God, and goes back to God. That's how this is. So because of that, he's the proprietor. Basically he's the proprietorship that we think about things. Actually the true proprietor is God for all that we possess, and it is for his not enjoyment, but he's a supreme enjoyer just by the default position he has in the grand scheme of things. And in this particular thing, God is saying not to think himself as the enjoyer of the fruits of his action. Okay, just align to that principle. Okay, it would still not click, I know that. So let's continue. So let's look at it through this analogy. It's like a hand-stomach relationship. Hand is a part. So if hand says, I'm going to exist on my own, okay, enough of feeding this stomach, it doesn't do anything, okay, and I just have to keep on feeding it. I'm just going to have my existence on myself. I will stop feeding it. Will it be able to sustain itself? No, it cannot. It's in serving the stomach, it automatically gets the nourishment that it needs. The same principle. When you serve the whole, you automatically get the nourishment. So it's just like when we think about enjoying the fruits of our action, we are basically saying, okay, forget about the stomach part of it. I think I am the one who needs to enjoy the fruits of all the actions that I do. And when we don't align to that principle, we will get deeper into that furthermore. What happens? Okay, so this is the principle that needs to be understood. It's in serving the whole, the part automatically gets what it needs. And that is essentially what Lord Krishna is reminding us here. Now, we cannot serve God, but we can serve God through our actions. When we offer the fruit, that is also a way of serving God. It's like for you, right? Like the other day Champaji was talking about Shri Krishna Astu. Basically, everything that you do, you offer it to the lotus feet of God. That is a spirit in which when we start doing, few things happen. And what are those few things is, let's look at that. So now let's say this is the question we are going to tackle today. Like I put in a topic of discussion today, that why is God asking us to offer the fruits of our work to him? First of all, why would he ask that? Is it going to make any less or more of God? Right? Does he become any less if we don't offer it? Or will he become more if we offer it? No, that's what we'll see. And what happens when I enjoy the fruits of my action? Let's say I have worked hard, I deserve it. Right? There is a newer generation, there is a slogan these days, YOLO. You only live once. YOLO, I'll have an ice cream. YOLO, I'm going to sleep today. YOLO, I'll take it easy. It's nothing like YOLO. Okay, we don't live once. So don't fall for YOLO if you hear that, okay, anymore. So let's get into a bit of philosophy here. So if you look at it, misery, it's a one end of the spectrum here, like happiness and distress we talk about. So when you feel miserable, you are on the one end of a pendulum, you've gone one extreme. And when you're happy, you have gone other extreme. So let's say you've been on the happiness side of the spectrum. Misery nobody wants, right? Nobody has taught us to be miserable. In fact, happiness is an inherent part of our existence, just because we are the fragment of that ocean of happiness. So, and we are seeking that, but let's say we want to enjoy, right, that God is talking about. Let's say we did something, we did hard work, something happened, something good happened in accordance with what we thought is good. And then we enjoy that, okay, I deserve it and I have done it, that kind of a feeling. Now when you go to that extreme in your mind, you've already created momentum to go to the other extreme, because that happiness is not going to remain. Have you seen a pendulum which has gotten stuck or suspended in that state? No. And higher it has gone on one end, the more potential energy it has gained to go to the other end, right? That is how it goes. So when you talk about this happiness, what Lord Krishna is saying, stay close to equanimity in both cases. Don't swing. And if you swing, that is what's going to happen with all of us. Of course, it's not a unit step function that tomorrow we decide and we are not going to swing. Then start reducing the amplitude. It's called amplitude, right? Either side, how much you go. Start reducing the amplitude around it, because it's a very interesting principle, a katya or a non-refutable law. Anything in this material world that you think or where you contemplate happiness upon eventually is going to give you misery. Okay? Just think deeply about this concept. It's a very deep concept. When you start contemplating happiness, especially around the material things, it will give you misery finally, because that happiness, nobody has an ability, neither material relations nor material objects, to sustain itself over a period of time. Now, the deeper you have gone into that happiness because of your attachment or that repeated thing that this is where happiness is, this is what's going to give me happiness, whatever it is, eventually when that facade is broken, right, it's not permanent, then we experience the other extreme, which is called misery. So essentially it's two sides of the same coin. So the higher we go on one side, actually the higher our probability is going on the other extreme as well. And that is why Lord Krishna is saying, help me help you, by staying equanimous around it. Now, does it mean you become nearest, dull, boring, and it's like, okay, ye bhi chalta hai, that is also fine, and I'll be just neutral, udasin? No, that's not the case. Okay, let's look at it a little deeper now. Let's go further on this concept. So what happens if we try to ride that joy? Okay, so scriptures tell us that the tendency to enjoy, bhog, that we talk about, few things happen, and you have to think deeply about this concept. Okay, what happens when we have a tendency to enjoy, considering ourselves as the enjoyer? Okay, few things happen. First is we get deeper into the material world, because first we are thinking there is happiness in this world, and that our mind is further, this concept further gets entrenched in our mind that there is happiness in this world. We can extract happiness from this world because I am enjoying. Okay, although that enjoyment may not last forever, it may be a temporary stage, but then our mindset is already tuned to the fact that there is something exciting in this world that I can enjoy. So that is first thing that happens. The second thing that happens is the binding karma. Now we have forfeited the opportunity to align to the principle of Karm Yoga, where we have not offered it at the lotus feet of God, and it becomes a binding karma. When I say binding karma, let's say the act that you did was a noble act. Let's say it was a charity. Let's say it was helping somebody. But because you relished that act, that I did it, I'm feeling good about it, it becomes binding punya. It becomes a good deed, a noble deed, which will give you merit. It's like you have made some withdrawal into your bank account, and now you will go to Swarglok, or a better life. However, that is also temporary. Our scriptures tell us that is not a permanent thing. Once you exhaust that bank account, Swarg is like walking into some place with $1 million. Once the $1 million are over, again, you're back to being a beggar because you cannot make further deposits. You cannot add another $1,000 to that. Those abodes. So the binding karma happens. It's not a neutral karma. Karam yoga is neutral karma, where you're not adding plus, you're not doing a plus or a minus. Second thing that happens is it's a binding karma because you are having a sense of doership. I'm doing that and I'm enjoying it. You want to feel good about yourself without understanding the higher principle around it. The third thing that happens is enslaved mindset, right? Because you are actually attached to the results as well. That's why you're enjoying, because you got a favorable result. It's tied to the previous principle again. You would enjoy only because you are attached to the result. And when you have that, that becomes your mindset. In every endeavor, you will think, all right, I'm going to do this. It should happen. And if it happens, you are happy. If it doesn't happen, you are miserable. So it's an enslaved mindset. That opportunity to free your mind from that outcome, which Lord Krishna is talking about, is forfeited. So third thing that happens is enslaved mindset. The fourth thing that happens is you are further away from spiritual life, peace, and happiness. You have enjoyed that small relish that came with that perfect thing that happened to you because you thought that would give you happiness, but it gave you something which is very temporary, and something more permanent, ever more lasting, that peace, that happiness, that opportunity is good. The next thing that happens is hankering, the desiring mindset. It's an eternal enemy and self-destructive. It infects our psyche with indelible impressions that haunt us far present lifetimes, because now it has become your sanskar. You seek happiness, success in material world. It becomes a mindset. When you get it, you are happy. When you don't get it, you are unhappy, right? So that mindset is something that you would retain across lifetimes. So it is leaving indelible imprints on your mind as well. That is another impact of it. And the next one is it's not sustainable. This will eventually lead to misery, as we have seen from our experience. You will keep oscillating or vacillating between happiness and misery. That temporary happiness and that we think is ultimate goal. It's not the ultimate happiness that we get, but we'll keep oscillating these two ends of the spectrums with the hope that every time everything that we would do would fall or would fit, would happen in accordance to our wishes, what we think is right. And if that condition is satisfied, then we'll be happy. If it is not, we'll not be happy. And that cycle continues throughout our life. Right? That is what makes us fearful as well, right? We become anxious. What if what I think is going to give me happiness does not happen? It's an enslaved mindset which continues. And it is perpetuated. The deeper we get into it, it gets perpetuated. So Lord Krishna is giving us a formula to start rising above it for your own sake. Not that he's going to become any better just by getting our fruits. He's telling us a formula. Let me help you on that. Now, let's say when we do that, what happens? Let's look at some of those aspects as well. So offering, let's look at some of the things that you would enjoy if you start inculcating that mindset of offering the fruits of your results to God. You can offer it only when you believe in God. If you don't believe in God, you say, okay, who is God? Why should I offer? And what is this offering business here? So obviously your belief in God will be solidified. You have to first understand that principle. There is some divine who controls the results of our actions. And then I need to offer it to them because that is aligning to the principle that is given. Second is faith in God's instruction that it is for our good only. We need to have that faith, then only you'll offer it. The third is understanding our constitutional position, that my constitutional position is that of a part and I have to serve the whole. Fourth one is believing that it's in giving we shall receive, that hand stomach analogy that I gave. All these principles will get solidified in our mind, and they have to be solidified for us to start offering those results. Believing that we don't have proprietorship over anything. When we think we are the proprietor, I own it, I'm going to enjoy it, it's my hard work, that my thing will start vanishing when you start getting into that mindset, right? That is what actually propels us to enjoy to the hilt when we think we have done something worthwhile in life and it's about time to enjoy, right? So that proprietorship, sense of proprietorship will start getting seen in perspective as well. And then the spirit of austerity. It's a bit of an sacrifice, right? Where you are forfeiting an opportunity. And we'll discuss some of the cases around it as well. And when you do the sacrifice, it's like, okay, I offer it to God. And we'll see some real life situations when I say why it is a bit of an austerity or kind of a sacrifice. Okay, we'll talk about that. But when we do that, it actually purifies. So in the spiritual realm, like in material realm, everything has a price tag. In material realm, we have to pay the price. In spiritual realm, when we do align to those principles, we gain actually. It's the other way around. There's everything to gain. In material realm, there's everything, most of the things, there's everything to lose basically. Everything has a price tag to it. It's like, okay, trade-off. If you want this, it'll come at the expense of this. In spiritual realm, everything to gain. When you start aligning to that principle, God is not miser, where you start offering him the results and he starts holding it for himself and said, okay, thank you very much and good luck. No, obviously he's going to give you something back, which is far more precious, far more fulfilling than what we are capable of achieving otherwise on our own, by holding or thinking of that, having that mindset of being the enjoyers. It is much more precious than that. It's a deeper concept for sure, right? So let's take some real life examples to put this thing in perspective and have a bit of a discussion. We can revisit this. I know it's a lot to digest, but then maybe if we pick up some examples and have a discussion, it will help reinforce this concept. So let's pick up some situation. When we taste success, such as, we got selected at some place which we were really hoping for, right? God is not saying don't have good aspirations. He said, go for it. You have infinite potential. Put your mind to it and go for it, kind of a deal. You get promoted because you do really well what you do in life. You hit a lottery, maybe because of prarabdha or whatever, or material success, such as you became a very successful entrepreneur, getting something we always wanted, you got it, right? So these are situations where we feel an entitlement to enjoy, right? I'm just putting these situations here. Now, if these things happen, let me put some more scenarios. When we work hard towards something and we get the desired results, right? That guy we spoke about, he wanted to work really hard to win those Olympic gold medal, just be the best in what you do. And finally you get the results. And now you think, yes, I did it, right? That is another situation where we want to ride that wave of success and enjoy, consider ourselves to be the enjoyer, right? Our corporate life also tells us celebrate and enjoy those goals, which is fine. Enjoying, you don't become it's like, okay, I'm not going to enjoy and there's nothing to enjoy. No, God is not saying that. We'll look at it in perspective, and let's put few more things. I mean, it's not all inclusive. You can talk about some more situations. Someone praises us, you are such a wonderful person, right? I've never seen somebody like you, and this and that. And then we get a lot of acknowledgement by people around us. You are so and so and outstanding and this and that. Now, these are the situations which actually give us a good reason to feel entitled to enjoy and feel good about and relish that moment in our heart. Yeah, wow, how nice it is for me. So let's get a bit of a discussion on it to see the principles that we spoke about. How would you apply this principle in these kind of situations, right? These are some common situations I picked up. If you have something else in mind, feel free to chime in. How would you apply the principle that we spoke about? What does it mean actually when we talk about, we need to have God or offer the fruits of our result to God? How would you tackle these situations if this happens to you and aligning it to this principle? Let's think loud what we understood from theory and how would we go about it. Yes.
Yes, Sandhyaji, go ahead.
Yes, Sandhyaji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Like I feel when we know that there is something that has been done through us and we get some result, then it's possible to offer it to God. I'm saying as I'm thinking, as you allowed me to.
Sure. No, it's a good. I know it's a good exercise. I think we all should do this mental drill a little bit. So it's good food for thought today.
Yeah, at
Yes.
least for these two examples, it appears that it is possible to try and practice to offer the fruit to God. But I really had this doubt in my mind. There are very little things which bring happiness to us, right? And say very small thing like good tasty food, which I like. If I get it, I'll just start smiling or I'll become happy. But is it like, are we saying that we shouldn't be happy at that moment? And that's just somewhat confusing
No,
to
God
me.
is not telling us not to be happy, okay? Yeah, let's try to look at this in perspective. He's not saying you become, okay, I should not be happy, okay, and I'm violating this principle. No, that's not the case. It's just a bit of a fine-tuning in the way we are approaching that thing, and that's pretty much it. And at the same time, we have to be realistic around it as well, right? Like I said, it's not going to be a unit step function, but they said, right, you start pushing a little bit of your envelope until you start understanding that concept, and then it becomes your second nature. So if you're going to tighten the strings too much, it will snap. So just a little bit more outside your comfort zone is what is needed to actually go from where you are just a little higher, and then when you get there a little higher, and then when you get there a little higher. But we don't want to take on a goal much beyond our ability and then snap and say it just doesn't make sense at all. And I'll try to give you some examples around it. But yes, to your point, obviously we got to be realistic around this thing. When Buddha, he gave up food, okay, and then he saw some village women passing by and they were singing that on Tanpura, and what they were singing was that you need to have those strings tightened just to the right amount, because if you make them too tight, they will snap, and if they are too loose, the right music or the chord will not come out. So we need to know that perfect tuning based on where we are right now. So let's look at the situation, right? We spoke about food. Maybe I should add that item here as well. That, okay, does it mean that you're not going to enjoy that rasgulla or kachori that we always do? Of course not, right? We don't need to get paranoid around that. And how does that enjoyment offer your fruit of your actions to God come into picture, right? In that scenario, we can talk about that. Any other situation you can think of?
So, but that mean, Nitinji, that if we enjoy rasgulla, that is fine. But if some other day we get 10 days, then also we can eat as a prasad.
10 days,
right?
Yeah. So, but then that is like, so that was the confusion. Can we maintain a constant state of happiness instead of constant state of neutrality? I don't know. I mean,
that's a good question. So yeah, would it make you what do you call that, neutral, udasin, like they say, right? Disinterested in everything in life, basically. Is that what we are saying? Yeah, let's
I mean, that's another confusion, that whether it's possible to attain a neutral state, or is it like if you're not happy or sad? I don't know. Is it like a binary thing, or is it?
No, it's not a binary thing. So basically, when you do that, start aligning to that principle, God gives you something in return. And that joy, the peace, the tranquility, the confidence, the equipoise that you experience is much higher than that temporary blip or that temporary joy that you experienced riding that moment. You see what I'm saying? And it will be more lasting. So what you get in return is much more than you actually enjoyed. Won't it be a good trade-off in that case when you start aligning to it? See, the beauty of this thing is when you start aligning to spiritual principles, God's grace starts coming in. And when God's grace start intervening, a lot of good things are happening. And it's a matter of realization at that point that, hey, that one party that you did not give me so much of bliss that I fear just by experience, just by understanding that thing and being able to digest it. See what I'm saying? When Lord Krishna was doing Maharas with gopis, in Bhagavatam it is said, now God, who's the epicenter of bliss, he's with them. Okay. Now we get small amount of bliss and we make everybody dance around us, right? You've seen people, sometimes they get so excited because, beyond a point, the bliss can be intoxicating as well. It can actually make you crazy also. So the gopis were with Lord Krishna. There cannot be any further bliss than that for a Jivatma. But then they had the capacity to digest it as well, and not even a single step or a beat they were missing. That much control they had. So you start getting that bliss and be able to tolerate that, right? God gives you more of that capacity to do that. So what you get in return when you start aligning to this principle is much higher than the temporary agitation of mind which you thought was joy you would have experienced. That is how it goes basically. So it's not that you become dull and oh, there is no fun in life and I'm going to be, you actually start getting much more peace, joy, bliss within when you start aligning to the higher principles. So let me put one more thing here, and I can see quite other few hands
Yeah,
raised.
there are a couple of hands raised right now.
Sure.
Can we take?
Sure. Yeah.
There are some messages are pouring in the chat as well.
Yeah. Let's hear from them, and we'll continue with this discussion. It's
Yeah.
an interesting discussion.
So we'll move on. Surendraji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Prabhu. Nitinji, I can simply add what Bhatiaji was asking. Whenever we get something and to feel sad or feel good about it, if we realize or we remember, for example, when we praise that Nitinji, today's session was very good, you have done excellently. The response from Nitinji is Hari Guru, not me. That solves the entire problem. What is the mind boggling about? If you are happy, think of the happiness being provided by the grace of the God. Everything has come by the grace of the God, because whatever Rasgulla we are eating, the ingredients of the Rasgulla are because of the grace of the God, through the farmer, through the cane grower, through the sugar maker, etc., etc. They are all part of tools of the God. If we keep that in mind, Hari Guru is the answer for it. Just keep in mind Hari Guru and everything is solved. Whatever is coming, positive or negative, it is the wish and the will and the power of God which we are getting. So we don't have to be worried about what can we do about it. Take it as it comes and it will be bliss. Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful point, Surendraji. Very nice. And we'll come to that part as well. And then that starts becoming part of your DNA. It's initially you may have to practice it, and then God will give you that understanding and reveal those principles within you that it becomes your conviction. You're not just saying it for the sake of saying it. It actually becomes your belief system because you start experiencing it as well.
Belief and conviction is the right point.
Yeah, you start truly understanding it, because it's just like, this guy Arjun, after the Mahabharata war was over, he was coming back through a forest, and these Bhil and tribal people, they were actually able to defeat him. So that's when he realized, the whole power that he was getting is because, Lord Krishna was sitting as a charioteer around with him. So that was that is a fact actually. The powerhouse is God. Now in these kind of situation, obviously good things can happen to us, but we can always in our mind dovetail it for a higher purpose. One thing of it is that, earn more so that you can enjoy more. You can keep on raising the standard of your living. And the other aspect of looking at the same thing is, all right, I've got the promotion, I've gotten this, I've gotten a bigger salary, or I've reached this position. I'll do my best so I can earn more, so that I can give more. Everything can be dovetailed. And when you think, no, I've earned more, now I'm going to enjoy a Ferrari or the next Lamborghini, that is where it gets corrupted, right? Because now you're thinking of bhog, as if there's a sense of entitlement, right? Now, God may bless us from time to time based on our prarabdha and a lot of other factors, but that doesn't mean we start putting it as a bhog. Bhog leads to bhog, essentially, and yoga is the key, basically. And gratitude is there. If we forget the gratitude, it's like taking credit for something that is being provided for by somebody else. So again, we are forgetting, how is it happening? Anything can be snatched away from in a moment. We say my this, my that, my bank balance, my kid, my spouse, my this minute, and that can be snatched. So we forget again the constitutional position where we are. We forget the fact that it is being provided for a reason. And if we simply think of ourselves as the enjoyer, that is where the problem starts happening. So, and it is beyond our means. That is a humility, that fact of it as well. And the other aspect of it is that we are just an instrument. And if we help somebody, or let's say we are getting praised, that means God is choosing to occasionally manifest but a spark of his splendor through us. It's not something that we are so great kind of a deal. God can make, right, anybody do anything if he chooses to. He's just chosen you as an instrument. So it should be a matter of honor and a privilege and a much more gratitude even at that point. And that's none of our achievement. It is temporary. Second thing is, it is temporary. It's not that once we are at a stature, you are getting praised, you will continue to get praised for the rest of your life, right? In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Amanen Manaden Kirtaniya Sadahari. You should never seek praise. Look at praising others and be content with that. And then direct to whom it truly belongs. It's like plagiarism, right? Plagiarism, what they call it. You have actually borrowed it from somebody. He's given you all that and you start taking credit for it. It's only going to fuel your pride. So it's just understanding who you are. Humility, we call it as a virtue. Humility is actually simply accepting who you are. It has become a virtue because we have become so conditioned that we think if you do that, you will become virtuous. But actually, it's simply accepting who you are. Nothing actually. Everything is provided for by God. And he may choose us from time to time to get something accomplished through you. And then it's an honor. It's a matter of gratitude. Thank you, God. You chose me for whatever reason. I feel so blessed. And please continue to bless me so that I can continue to become an instrument of yours or a profitable servant of yours for the rest of my life. And the bliss that you get in that is manifolds than the temporary things that we enjoy on getting something, materially conducive, or hitting a lottery or getting a promotion, and all that stuff is dwarfed in front of what you get in return. That peace, that tranquility, the confidence, the bliss, a lot of those things can only be experienced, cannot be articulated. And that is how it goes. You can try experimenting it and you can experience it for yourself. Next time, it's not going to happen just like that. But just remember, God, I'm getting into that act. Just give me that. I know you have blessed me this time. Help me tolerate that. And I would need your help even when things are going tough for me. Okay. When you start doing that, God is seated with it. He say, okay, this guy is honest, trying to make an effort. Let me start blessing him. And over time, we'll start getting better at those principles. I mean, even now it happens. Something good happens at office, or otherwise you feel okay. But then take a step back, knock happens. No, stay where you are. Don't let it get to your head. So those are the reminders we have to set for ourselves. And when we start practicing, aligning to those principles, God also helps us, because it's not going to be easy for us because of our conditioning. Okay, let's hear from others.
Yeah, beautifully explained. Preeti ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Preeti ji. Sorry, I took a long time.
Are you able to? Yeah, okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, everyone. Nitinji, very, very beautiful session yesterday and today both. Goosebumps. Well, yes, you just put in this third bullet point. I wanted to say that if I get some applaud or something, I feel like God chose me. One. Second one, I would say, if I get a rasgulla or if I get something which is bland, I have come to know that this is temporary, neither of it is going to sting. And this pendulum principle which you keep giving is so much ingrained and is so apt that everything is taken, nothing is with a pinch of salt and nothing is exalted. So, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you so much, Preeti ji. Yeah. These principles are like so wonderful, actually. You simply start trying it in your life and you'll start understanding, what it means actually. So beautiful. Thank you so much, Preeti ji.
Thank you, Preeti ji.
Your hands, let's hear.
Yeah, Jyoti ji wanted to add something regarding Sandhya's question. So I'll, Radhe Radhe, Jyoti ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Pallavi ji and Nitinji and everybody. Sandhya ji, I'm not trying to single you out, but you have a valid question about the Rasgulla, and like Pallavi ji said about Tinde. The answer to that comes from whether we have prasad buddhi or not. When we go to the mandir, we don't say we want matar paneer. We eat even whatever, even Tinde or Karela, if it is served to us, we take it as prasad. Or when the Panditji gives us the orange, we don't say, no, we like the banana instead. That is where the distinguishing happens. And as long as we think that everything belongs as a prasad from Bhagwanji, we are going to accept it in our life too. And this doesn't apply just to the temple, it applies to the rest of our lives too. And one little thing that I would say is that in Sundarkand, when Hanumanji is leaping across the ocean and he meets Sulsa, and Sulsa opens her mouth to swallow Bhagwanji, and Bhagwanji gets larger and she opens her mouth larger, he grows even larger. So one interpretation that was given by Lal Govindas Prabhuji, who is an ISKCON devotee, what he said is that if somebody praises you, think of it as an opportunity for you to grow and do even more seva, so that their praise is too little for the seva that you're doing. And you keep growing that way until you cannot do any more seva. And if they continue to praise, that is when you become like the mosquito sized masak saman, they say in Sundarkand. You grow so little and you exit out of there. You don't want to exit out of the seva, but the idea is that you grow so large that your seva is beyond what can be even praised, and then you grow tiny and you try to eclipse yourself behind the seva itself. And maybe I'm not explaining it completely, but Lal Govindas Prabhuji has explained it so well that Sundarkand is something that we can apply into our own lives, and we can establish this opportunity to do seva for the rest of community. Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful point, Jyotiji. Yeah, eclipse behind us. Yeah, that was a very nice analogy. Heard it for the first time. I'd heard the other one that when you become this big and he became this, it's like you become greater than the difficulty. There's no other option. So this is another beautiful analogy that you explained today. Very nice. And I think you eclipse yourself behind your seva. If I understand it right, that means it's like Nishkam seva, where you are eclipsed. It's like the salt, right? Salt does the Nishkam seva in our food. It doesn't get credit, but without salt, there is no taste. But
yeah, इतना हम घुल जाए अपनी सेवा में कि हम और हमारी सेवा में कोई फर्क ना लगे, and you grow so much that लोगों का मुंह में ना समाए कि हम इतना, like it's not just we shouldn't have that pride, but we should do that much seva as what. And another analogy that was given is that Bhagwanji, when he leapt across the ocean, he shot out like an arrow. So an arrow doesn't say, hey, look, I hit the target, but the credit for the arrow goes to the person that is shooting. So as long as we think of ourselves as an arrow or a weapon or an instrument of God, we don't take the credit. The person who is shooting, the person who is taking the aim, the person who is giving us the energy gets all the credit, and that happens to be Bhagwanji.
Beautiful. Very nice analogy. Yeah.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe. Thank you so much, Jyotiji. Beautiful analogy. Tinde remind me of the lunch boxes I used to have when I was a kid. Okay, my mom is listening here. That used to be everyday lunch box, and I started hating Tindes. Okay, now I've started.
I'm sorry about that. Sorry of reminding you of Tinde.
But now I've started loving it. Okay, if you make it properly, you can actually enjoy it as well. Okay, I saw Minuji's hand. Minuji usually has.
Yes, I saw Minuji's hand. Minuji,
you're not allowed to raise and then put it back. Okay, so we got to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Minuji, Radhe Radhe, please.
I saw so many hands, so I thought, let me put it down. But anyway, I'll just take your 1 minute. This is what I've learned from Shri Maharaji and Swamiji, that, this all this happiness in the material world is temporary, and the real happiness is in the divine realm. So all the Maharaj has written this Pad Kirtan Nit Seva Mangu Shama Sham Teri. So it says Tere Sukh mein hi Sukh Nit Pati Rahu, aur tere seva mein, tere sukh mein, and desire in your desire happiness. So that the happiness we want, so tabhi milegi when we attach our mind in the divine realm. Material realm mein temporary happiness. Thank you.
Beautiful points. Very deep tattva gyan, Minuji. Beautiful, loved it. Yes, and if you look at the other part of it, right, God is telling us to integrate God in your consciousness, because you have to offer the fruits to Him. Without thinking about Him, you'll not. So He's actually helping you solidify this practice of thinking about Him as well.
Yeah, and then that becomes a habit. Now I have a habit, before eating and before cooking, I have Maharaj's picture, he's eating prasad. So I have that and I offer it. It becomes automatic, whatever I'm cooking, I'm offer first and then I eat,
True,
It
true,
becomes a habit.
true.
And we have to be thankful that we are getting so much and other people really don't have anything to eat.
Very true, very true. So it actually helps us in devotion as well. When you suffix anything by yog, that means you are adding devotion to it, right? It's like that amrit. Whether you add it to water, it becomes amrit. You add it to milk, it becomes amrit. You add it to Coca-Cola, it becomes amrit. That the key thing is the yoga aspect of it. So you are mixing devotion to your work, and work is what takes the most space or time of our life, the most part. So if you start doing that, nothing like it, right? It will help you solidify your devotion as well, because now you are integrating God and godly consciousness with those small things, and eventually it will lead us to bigger things as well. Okay, few more hands, and in the meantime, please do fill out the feedback tracker, put in the questions if you have any. We'll continue on this discussion. This was a pretty deep topic, even I have struggled with this. What does it mean offering fruit to God? But yeah, start aligning to that pendulum. Remember pendulum? Just remember, I'm not going to oscillate big time, and that will help you sail through, those moments of extreme ecstasy that we feel and the extreme misery that you feel. So say, okay, I'm going to be, because if I do that, I will draw God's grace, and God's grace is priceless. Okay. So
So
that
there is a message from Galaxy J2 Core. She I don't know
Galaxy, I think.
woman's name. Yeah, Galaxy
We
J.
have Galaxy one day and
Yeah.
Milky Way the other day. I think we'll have a bit of a variety then. But yeah,
Yeah, so constant state of happiness can be maintained in this world when we are equanimous. Can we say this?
very true. Very, very true. Equanimity is something that God loves. God will say, now we are talking. You're actually trying to align to the principle that I'm telling you. When you are equanimous, that's when special things happen. God's grace will intervene. He'll give you much more than you would have experienced on the other extreme. But we don't have that faith, right? We go for the short term thing. Start aligning to it, start tolerating it. Just tolerate it. Just digest it and see what wonderful things start happening at that point.
Oh, Galaxy
An
J2
example
is
of
Urvi, by the way.
okay, galaxies will be okay. I told you the example of Dhoni yesterday, right? I don't know if he reads Bhagavad Gita, but some of his mannerisms that you see, it's like he's sorted out to a certain extent because of whatever reason. I've never seen him super excited. It's like I'm barely able to speak when I'm excited. Nothing of that sort. Even after winning the World Cup, he was like as cool as a cucumber. Okay, job done. Let's move on to the next thing. And that is the mindset we need to have.
Amazing.
Yeah. And see how successful he has been. He's won all the ICC titles, and nobody has been as successful as him, basically, in cricketing history of India. Any captain, for that matter. Great.
A quick question I would like to take, Nitinji.
Sure.
The question is from Anusha. Why has God created us to have material mind and body? Why is Maya Shakti designed the way it is, and why can't it give us divine bliss directly instead of making us go through the maze of worldly desires and complications?
See, for us to become beautiful, if a marble will remain a marble until it is chiseled. So God wants us to give his entire wealth, but we have to earn it. Now he is not created Maya. Maya has always existed. We are chasing Maya. We are holding Maya and saying Maya is troubling us. He's given us the knowledge as well. And the day we do the God realization, we will say it was worth the pain and the weight. Okay? You can be rest assured. Swamiji said that. The pain that we have endured and the weight that we are going to endure, but it will be worth it when you get God realization. And if it's given to you in a platter, you'll not be able to appreciate it, nor will be able to digest it. We have to be ready for that. If God gives you a trace of his divine bliss today, you will disintegrate. Our heart cannot take bliss beyond a point. So we have to have that capacity, that much of purity, that much of selflessness. The day the vessel is prepared, Guru will give you all the grace, divine love that we are entitled for, and then we have become billionaire anyways. So we just have to focus on things to cleanse ourselves, see how many impurities we carry in our mind. And then the saints will complain that we worked so hard to get your divine grace, and then Anusha got it, free of cost, just on a platter. So it's not a fair game, and God is just. He's very fair. People will lose trust in God. He whimsically bestows it to anybody who comes in daily wisdom session, just because they asked for it. So it will not work out that way. We'll have to earn it through our hard work and through the proper knowledge and the tools and techniques that are presented to us in our scriptures.
Wow, beautifully
So
explained.
that is a part of perfection, right? God is respected because he's perfect. God is respected because he's just. Now, if he starts distributing his grace just like that, then it will be like, and then we have to have an entitlement. I said, right, if we get one-way ticket to Golok today, we will all be bored. He said, okay, we want to just go back and attend all the RKT events because they were much more fun than what's happening here in Golok, because we are not yet ready for it. So we got to be prepared, and then we can have that eligibility to truly able to value what we have gotten.
Wow, very nice. I see a couple of more hand raised, Nitinji. Thank you all for waiting. Shyamji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe, everybody. I just wanted to say a few words like pendulum. Is it pendulum? I have experienced pendulum, the enjoyment part of it, and then God gave me a kickback, and I saw the misery part of it. So I think that I am reading Bhagavad Gita just to see my life which has gone by. Arjun was told Gita to live his life, what he wanted to live. But in my case, I can say that I have lived my life for the past so many years, and God is just teaching me to map events of my life to Bhagavad Gita. Because as I always tell you, my life experience, I was at a peak of my youth in every sense, and then things happened, and I was at the end of it, and now I just don't need anything else. For example, I wanted to change my car for a couple of years. I couldn't do it. Then because I wanted to do it, I was loving it. But then Gita happened to me, and all the need desires went off. Then one fine day, a car dealer called me up that it is available. You want to have it? I said, okay, let's have it. I had no clue. I had no funds, no money. But then as God wanted it, believe me, I never wanted it because it's okay. Because as in India, Delhi, we can't drive a diesel car beyond 10 years. And my car is old enough. It's almost 9 years plus. So I had to stab it any which way by the year end. So the bank loan was having some issue with me. It took almost 3 weeks to sanction my loan of 20 lakh rupees. It's not a big amount in Delhi. But some things went wrong here and there. But I didn't lose my cool because I know if it happens, it's okay otherwise, because I didn't want it at the end of it. And I was hoping that because of my my financial capacity for the last couple of years, it has gone down. So bank would not give me beyond 15 to 13 lakhs. But as God wanted it, the bank gave me the entire loan. And I wanted the car to be on a certain date, but I wanted it, but not God. So I couldn't get it. So I got the car last evening. Believe you me, there is no happiness with me. I don't feel elated. Yes, wow. It's just a part of my life, just another day, another material thing. Because earlier on, when I used to buy anything, maybe a cloth or a watch, expensive gift, I used to feel, yes, I have done it, and this is me, myself. But now, I just can't even digest that I have it, and I am not even feeling good about it. I do not know what and why, but I really can't even think that, because you know how one feels when you buy a car of your choice, of your thing, and it comes to you in a platter. But this time I do not know what God has made me. I do not know. Maybe I think I'm mapping my life to Gita. Whatever I read, I have read so far with my you for last year and a half. I'm just trying to map my life step by step to all which has gone by. And Arjuna was given a future process, future life, and God is showing me my past life, that please map it to the event which have gone by in your past life. So that next coming years, I know it will take good 6 more years. So I'll have to wait for 6 years to see my life more better way, but still I'm okay with that. So I think my next 5 years I'll be there. I am at peace till today. But I know for sure if I continue with Nitin Bhai and this my satsangi devotees, fellow people, I will be a different level. That's for sure, Nitin Bhai. Radhe Radhe. I just want to share my life because whenever I listen to you or other people, their thoughts, their knowledge, I feel so blessed that I just try to map it to my life because this is where I can really think and do whatever I do because no other way better than to see your life the way it happens to you. I guess
Beautiful
it makes
realization, Shyam bhai. I think that is the real growth actually. If we can actually map things to some of these principles and see how we could have handled it differently, that is the real growth. And I can see that it's pretty palpable in your words and when you narrate your experiences that something is changing and that change is for good. So just hang on to that, and I'm sure Krishna would help you go from strength to strength along with this group and along this journey. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Shyam bhai. Loved it. Few more hands. Let's hear from them
Yes.
quickly. Pallaviji, do we have time? Yeah, we have a little bit.
Yes, Rahul ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead. Sorry for keeping you guys waiting.
Radhe Radhe, Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Mata Ki.
Mata Di. So I think in this, when Shri Krishna is telling the second point where we should not be enjoying the results and then we have to give the pride of doership. I remember one of the concepts which you told about the window movement. Whenever something good happens, we have not done that. Actually, that is the inspiration which God has given. He has provided that strength and then we were able to do that. Whenever something happens, okay, then we have to own it and then try to improve on it. And the second thing is, if we are part and parcel of God and then He is our master, then everything, whatever we are doing, the inherent nature is to please Him. So all the results, all whatever we are trying to do, that is our main motive actually, knowingly or unknowingly.
Yep. Great.
That sums all the principles here. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful. And I think it's a good segue to our next principle that we are going to discuss tomorrow, that don't have the sense of doership. Okay, he's already set the stage for that. So we're going to have a very deep discussion on that as well. So beautiful point, Rahul. I think you're contemplating really deeply on this concept and you're getting that import. So God, grace has already started, flowing in for all of us. Beautiful, very nice point.
One more thing about Rasgulla and Gulab Jamun or donut. Palmaji might like maybe donut, Sandhyaji might like Rasgulla. It is because they are attaching that, okay, the happiness is here. Maybe I will not like both of them. So that is the point. Yeah, Rasgulla and donut is the same. But how come one person is deriving happiness, the other person is not? Because of the repeated contemplation and that thinking, okay, the happiness lies in that particular thing. Car, whatever you buy after 1 month, you will say, oh no, I now need to buy a new car. New house, after 2 years, it is already old. Now we have to get something else.
Very true.
Thank you.
Great point, Rahul. And Padmaji is going to challenge that she doesn't like donut, okay? The example that you called out.
Yeah, so.
Great point, Rahul. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Rahul ji. Joanne ji has mentioned that I can relate to Shyam ji. I do not have the same joy in material objects as I used to do before.
It's a good realization, actually. Very nice realization. Some people, they say they don't feel the same pain when previously they used to feel than when, the grief they would feel when things will not go right, which is a good change. It's a good change that we need to embrace. Great.
So Lakshmi ji wanted to share some, Lakshmi ji, please raise your hand. I can unmute you. Some incident that what happened today in her surgery, and she wanted to share that.
Oh, you had a procedure done today, Lakshmi. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Lakshmi ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, everyone. I just want to share that a case I did the surgery to deliver the baby to a patient who was very much complicated, like 6 to 7 complications. It was tough to her to be alive. But we, with my senior, had tried a lot, but we couldn't save her, but we could save the baby. Then I was very much upset that day, and it took for me a day or a couple of days to recover from that. Then later, when I discussed to my madam, she said it's almost very complicated and it was neglected in the private hospital for a week. So she was so much complicated that we have pushed almost 7 bloods, but we couldn't save her. Then when after talking with my senior, then I made myself, okay, God has made me or selected me to get relief of a painful condition. So like that, I thought and came out of that incident. And so that I want to share this.
Okay. Was it easy for you to see it in perspective because now you are trying to align to some of the principles that
Yeah, it was very tough because the whole family was disturbed.
Yep.
So
I can imagine.
the kid is devoid of mother, but it was yeah. So it was very bad situation, but we couldn't save her. We had done a lot, but so then I thought, okay, out of so many people in the hospital, then I thought, oh, God has selected me to get relief of her pain. So in that way, I made myself and pushed myself back after 2 days.
Great. No, that's good way of looking at it. I know these are some of the situations when our emotions are put to test, how far we are able to take them and tackle them with perspective. Thank you for sharing that, Lakshmi-ji. Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi ji. Hats off to all doctors. I always have very high level of admiration for their job. I mean, it's very, very tough what you guys do. Thank you for what you do.
Yeah, dealing with human life is a lot of time. Radhe Radhe, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for waiting, Padma ji. Please go ahead.
Padma ji.
Radhe Radhe. First of all, sorry to disappoint Rahul ji. Donut is not my favorite, but I will move on. So just few thoughts. And I always like whenever something is presented either to me in life or something which is presented on this platform or anywhere, I just say, what would I do? How would I break this for myself? And I say, how can I break this for somebody else? Most of the time, maybe because the mindset is like that, or maybe the profession, or maybe the nature, maybe the sanskar. Most of the time, my mind goes to, how can I simplify this for myself? And this, when we actually try to apply this, how can I simplify this for somebody else? You will be able to put yourself in a very better position than putting yourself if you're trying to break this down for yourself. This technique we can use for many of the things in life. When somebody comes to you, what would you suggest to them? How would you break this down to somebody else? That is, technique or tip. But this is how I broke it for myself. Like today, tomorrow I might come up with like 10 pages of something. Knowledge, any knowledge, whether it's spiritual knowledge or material knowledge, it comes with principles. It comes with theory, it comes with the tools. But either for the principles or the theory or the tools, for us to apply, we really have to have a sense of experience. And experience is not going to happen unless we contemplate on it and find out the reasons why we are not able to understand. Many of the times, and most of the time, the simple, easy technique to understand something and to break down something for you is try to understand what it is not, rather than trying to understand what it is. Many times it becomes very easy when you try to understand what it is not. This is not what it's supposed to be. This is not how it's supposed to be done. This is not how I was supposed to react. This is not how I was supposed to say something. This is not how I was not supposed to get angry. So not is limited quantity. So when you tackle that not part, you will actually get to the part that you're actually supposed to get to. So when the situation comes, you ask yourself, how is that I'm not supposed to react in this situation? And you'll get to the point how you're actually supposed to react to that situation. A small example I can quickly think of, right? Let's say you become very, very successful. You're so rich, you're very successful in your position and everything. You got lots of money, you got lots of status, you got everything. What is that we would expect not to do in that situation is, I did this. I became more successful. I put my brain power. I worked hard for it. It was my idea. But when you reinforce verbally saying this over and over and over and over again, your mind is listening to this, and that becomes the nature of the mind and the condition of the mind. Not this people are saying this, but you're just saying to yourself and conditioning your mind, I did it, I did it, I did it. But then when you say, God made me do this, God helped me do this, God actually encouraged me to do that, God actually facilitated me to do this, you're using the same thing, but you're just dovetailing of what you're saying to yourself. So just rephrase what you're saying to yourself, so that the mind is conditioned with the right thing and the right way that it's supposed to be conditioned. That is one thing. The other thing is, understand what your emotion is in that state of mind. Let's say there is a rasgulla right in front of you and you love it. It's okay to nourish. I mean, this is again me, you nourish that food which is in front of you, but in the sense that God has provided me with this food, I'm going to eat this, and because God has given me this, what is that thing that we say in Telugu? Krishna Arpanamastu. That means thank God for providing rasgulla, thank God for providing gulab jam or whatever that is. So eat. I don't think God is saying don't eat it. Eat, but then just say to yourself, thank God for providing me for this. Help me. How can I put a purpose or a spiritual purpose for this thing? And then applaud. Like if somebody is applauding, you don't have to throw in a lot of emotion through that applaud. If somebody is really praising you, internally, you don't have to throw in a lot of emotion to it. Externally, you might give a smile. Externally, you do what you need to do in that position, but internally, you don't have to give a lot of emotion to that situation, lot of energy to that situation. Just do what you need to do from outside, but internally, you just stay very, very stable. And that's your integrity, that's your character that you build upon, and that cannot be shaken even if the environment is changing. And the last thing that I want to say is, we think that we are targeting something. We are not targeting anything. The target is actually seeking us. There is a purpose. There is that situation which is constantly seeking us. The only way the target can seek us is through the power and the energy of the God, that there is a purpose that we have to go through the situation. There is a target which is inviting you because you have to learn that lesson. I guess that's it.
Yeah, that's a great point of looking at. Yes, everything is actually designed. It's a hand-picked, custom-made course for each one of us that God has designed. It's a tailor-made. Who's the doctor? Microbiologist, telemedicine, right? Targeted medicine. Similarly, God has a targeted course for each one of us based on where we are, what we need. So yes, very true. And
Yes.
I like the fact that externally you can, show a smiling face. Don't pick up a fight if somebody praises you. How dare you praise me, right? But internally, you don't have to give a lot of importance to it. Great points, Padmaji, like always. And I look forward to your blog on this one. Beautiful points. Okay, Pallaviji, do we have time?
Yes.
Maybe
Yes.
minute each, if you can do that. Pallaviji is feeling very sleepy. I can sense that.
Oh, no. I look sleepy.
Internally, she's like, okay, I've already dozed off. Let's do.
Okay, Nitinji, if I can take a quick moment for announcements as well.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone, please put your comments, feedback, and questions in the feedback tracker. The link is already posted in the chat. And a quick announcement about, especially for people in US, don't miss the opportunities, amazing opportunities to connect with Swamiji personally at these programs from April 30 through May 26, East Coast Tour. And those are the events in Pennsylvania, New York, Maryland, New Jersey, Virginia. So I'm going to post a link for this life transformation event with Swami Mukundanandji. There will be Swamiji's lectures and seminars and meeting with Swamiji in person. So please do not miss this opportunity. I remember meeting Swamiji in Connecticut in this event, and it is one of the memorable event that I attended with Swamiji.
Pallaviji, you can post the link even on our CIC group. That way.
Yes, I can. I am going to do that. And
that opportunity, yeah, including the family camp that is coming up here in Dallas.
Yes, and one more event is very, very important event is the yoga event. It is going to be JK Yoga International Festival of Yoga. This is going to be from June 15 through June 21st, 2022. So this was the event in 2020 when I first attended JK Yoga Festival. And since then, I am part of JK Yoga family.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's one of flagship events. Grand, pretty grand.
It's pretty grand. It's pretty grand, and it's very, very. I think I learned so much from this event. I can't even
This was one of
describe in words. Yeah, I'm going to put that all the links in the chat.
this is the event where I had created a step for Sanya Malhotra to come upon. So I still remember that. All right.
All right, Kumarji, thank you for waiting. Please go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji. I was trying to reach out to one of our JK Yoga person, and I said, Radhe Radhe, this is Kumarji. I have been listening to your comments, and they said, oh, is it the Kumarji who kind of, confuses Nitinji with Ajayji? So that's the name I got. So I said, yes, I am.
I was surprised. Okay, you have not called me Ajayji today. Okay, so I said, all right, I can manage with Nitinji today.
Yeah, nowadays I'm much better. So there are a few things which I wanted to share. Some of them very entertaining. Yesterday there was a question about the thief. Like if the thief thinks he's doing the right, like he's not attaching this one, but his job is as a thief. That's not right. This reminds me of a dialogue in a movie called Ux, which says the guy who kills, he says, "Koi marta nahi, koi marta nahi, maine nahi kaha, Gita mein kaha hai." Right? So it's really funny. Well, it was a good movie at that time. Not that I want to see it now, but that was just what I wanted to talk about that. Then moving on to the next one, Shyamji was talking about some amount which is not big in Delhi, right? So I've been in Delhi, and Delhi is a totally different place. I felt like an alien in Delhi. I'm from the south, of course. Delhi, they live life large. If anyone is not in Delhi but have gone to Delhi, would kind of understand that. It's really phenomenal. I could never kind of adjust to it, but anyways, it's their lifestyle, and that was something I just wanted to talk about. But then coming back to equanimity. So I would, I've been studying these two cricketers, Virat Kohli and MS Dhoni. Though, of course, MSD is captaining the team from my state, but I kind of, I was more like a Virat Kohli kind of captain in my school days. Wow, that was fast. So I'll try to make it fast. So what happened was then I realized whom I wanted to be was like MSD, because when he loses, he doesn't lose his calmness or composure. When he wins, he does not. So that makes him endearable to everyone, and very few people find fault with him, right? I think he follows something like the NATO principle, right? Equanimity is nothing but following the NATO principle of not the outcome, but the process. You just follow the process, and then that takes you overall, in a bigger period of time, it will give you success. So that's how I just wanted to kind of end my discussion, because my 2 minutes are up. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful points, Kumarji. That's true. Yes. That's one of the reasons, if you hear some of his interviews, that aligning to equanimity, that principle of equanimity as best as he possibly can, has yielded him rich results in his life. Right?
Just one more thing, which I wanted to say, because that was a good thing item as well. I've seen bands, people put handbands, which says, what would Jesus do? Right? Generally, the Christians kind of hand it over in many places. The same thing, what would Krishna do? Or what would an enlightened Arjuna do? This is something like a poster we can put it. And then, at each situation where we have to make a decision, if we look at that and make a decision, usually it will be a educated decision, at least for the people who have been being on the spiritual path. So just want to share that as well.
Great point. Yeah. What would Krishna do? Krishna would, yeah, that's true. Great way of looking at it. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Kumarji, for your valuable insights. Last but not the least, Rupaji.
Rupaji.
From Rupaji.
Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, everyone. Actually, I just wanted to share some real incidents of my life. The thing is, when my sister spoke about that surgery thing, I just that clicked in my mind. Like maybe in 2009 and 2010, my both the grandfathers, we lost them. So at that time, I was there in the hospital in their last breath. And one of my grandfather, my dad's dad, when he was hospitalized for 25 days, I was there all the 25 days because I did not allow my parents to stay there, as their age is also more and they cannot handle things. And on that last day, I just went home. My parents came there. They said that you just take rest, because I was at that time I was taking tuitions to kids and it was their final exams time. Parents were calling me, so dad said that okay, for a couple of hours, go, just teach them and come down. In the meantime, my grandfather was very critical and they did not say anything to me. And my sister was at home. She took the call and she just said, you just have some dinner and go. I said, no, I have to go. I'll eat in the hospital. They did not allow me. So I had, but back of mind, I was not happy eating that meal also. But I rushed to hospital. When I was there, I could see 20 people are around him trying to wake him up. And my mom feeded him with some curd rice. He was holding that rice since half an hour and he's not swallowing it, or he's not picking it, getting it out. So when I just there, because I was all there for 25 days, and he was in the same position for 45 minutes. When I just called him, he just saw and he left his, like, he took his last breath after seeing me. I was surprised to experience that. He was holding that for me, and my mom's dad was also there, but I was there. He was not waiting for me, but I was there at his last breath. And 4 years back, when I lost my dad, also, like, I came from US for the last 15 days when my father had a fall, and for 2 months he was sick. And the last 1 week, I and my mom were at the hospital. And the last day, my mom went home just to get fresh up and cook something for me and her. And before she comes, my dad was like in a serious condition. He was put on ventilator. He was in ICU. And the next day, we lost him. I don't know what all these gave me a sign. But whenever I think I was there in their last journey, I was beside them. Some way I feel very blessed that I was there in their last journey, but sometimes it hurts a lot that it happened beside me or with me. Sometimes it really scares me, or sometimes I feel happy that God has chosen me with them in their last journey. But I don't know. If I think of it now also, I cannot control my emotions. But I feel blessed that God has chosen me in their last journey.
So that's the right way of looking at it. Maybe it's a way of giving you a closure also, right? Some people always think we could not have that closure, seeing that you got that opportunity. So you have to look at that way. Secondly, you also have to look at the death in perspective as well, right? Like when Buddha was told that, can you resurrect my son? He said, first get me a mustard seed from a house where no death has taken place. So we all have our journey. Somebody who comes has to depart, and somebody who departs again comes back. That's what Bhagavad Gita tells us. So the soul's journey is continuous. It's a continuum. And when somebody discards a body, it's only when it becomes uninhabitable for them at that, right? So it's a mercy from God's side. We cry because our happiness is impeded. But if you think about the soul, they have moved on in their journey. It's good for them. So if you think it that way, it's good actually in that sense, right? There was a husband who used to wail over his wife. Swamiji tells that beautiful example. He always used to cry. His wife left. He was madly in love with his wife, and they had a very strong connect and a bond. And he was not able to take a closure to that. And then he met Swamiji, and Swamiji told him, maybe this was your wife's way of telling you that if you had departed in front of her, she would not have been able to bear that pain. And that gave him a closure. So we have to reason it out with proper knowledge. and think positive about it. At least you got a closure right around it, and they have to move on in their journey as well. What if they would have continued in that state for 10 more years? Maybe it was not good for them.
No,
So
never.
that is how we look
That
at
pain was more painful. But
it.
that's what I feel like. I'm blessed, but sometimes whenever I think if someone is hospitalized, I don't want to go there. I feel like I don't want to go there.
You
Or
don't
some,
worry about like that. This is something your mind is cooking up now, right? It's not that Yamraj accompanies you wherever. Okay, so don't worry about
no.
what.
But I felt really happy that in their last journey, I was beside them. And out of such a big family, and I was chosen for all the 3 times. I feel I'm blessed.
Thank you for sharing it with us. Rupa. But yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is helping you seeing these things. Death is the toughest thing for humans to take, right? Like, we can start seeing it in perspective. It is again breaking one of those biggest shackles that we have in our mind. And that is the hope, basically, as we progress spiritually. It's obviously difficult losing a near.
But really, that was not easy every time. Really not easy.
Thank you for sharing that. Sometimes when you share, that is also therapeutic. So I know we are over time now. Let's do our closing prayers.
Radhe Radhe, everyone.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for sharing, Rupaji. Hope you get the strength to deal with your grief.
Yeah, take care. You will derive a lot of strength when you start conversing with Krishna. It will give you perspective and clarity around this whole thing. And a great discussion today. We'll continue tomorrow with the third part. The concept of doership, that is also a bit confusing. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. And let's do our closing prayers for the day. And I want to remind you, Monday, I'm saying, yeah, Friday session will not happen. I have to get rid of my wisdom tooth. So hope it would take maybe a couple of days. That's what I've been told. So I thought weekend would at least help me give some cushion, right? We can resume on Monday. So that's why I chose Friday. There's no Saturday appointment there. So let's do our closing prayers and we'll meet tomorrow again. Who wants to
Yeah. Has Aarti raised her hand for closing prayers?
Yeah, I think it's for closing prayers. Yes, Aarti, you can take it.
Yes, Aarti, go ahead, please. Are you able to unmute yourself?
Not able to hear.
Yeah, somehow she is not able to unmute herself. I don't know why. I'm unmuting her, but she's not able to. Anyways,
I guess. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah, we can do the closing prayers. Okay.
Om Sarve
Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani
Pashyantu Ma Kaschat Dukh Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you everybody for a wonderful session and engaging discussion. Thank you Pallaviji for sticking around, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Nitinji, always having such an awesome class. Thank you everyone for joining in such a wonderful discussion. Have a blessed day, blessed evening. We'll see you tomorrow. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.